Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Game of Thrones Season 5 Predictions, Final Predictions. So about 8 months ago, I made a video where I predicted what would happen in Season 5 of Game of Thrones, and pretty much all I had to go on was the books. Season 5 will be based on A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, and trying to extrapolate patterns from the 4 previous seasons of Game of Thrones. Since then, I've done a series of update videos as more information came in. Now, as I make this video, we're just about 1 week from the season premiere of Season 5, and we have a lot more information of what will happen in Season 5. I thought it was a good time to revise the predictions I made in my original prediction video and summarize all of my further predictions and corrections of my update videos and trailer reviews into one video. So this video will serve as all of my final predictions for Season 5 as a whole going into it. Like I did in my first video, I'll go location by location to give my predictions on what I think is going to happen in Season 5. I'll try not to make too many references to my first video, as I want this video to stand on its own, and after Season 5 is finished, I'll discuss my predictions in retrospect and what I got right and what I got wrong. But as I did with my other video, I want to start out by discussing the pace I think Season 5 will set, as this is something I've drastically changed my mind about. In my previous video, I said I felt Season 5 will cover half of A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, and Season 6 will cover the other half. I've since changed my mind that Season 5 will cover pretty much the entirety of A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons. It is ultimately hard to put this in definitive terms, though, since I believe the show will be diverging from the book so much this year. It's hard to put directly to a certain book for inspiration, because in a lot of cases the show will be going off on its own way. However, I believe, like I've always believed, that the show will continue to hit all the major plot points of the books right up into the very end. And I am still very adamant that Season 5 will not delve headlong into Winds of Winter territory yet. I heard many fan predictions that Season 5 will go deep into Winds of Winter territory, even doing storylines like Stannis attacking Winterfell and the Battle of Meereen. I have always maintained and still maintain that these events will not happen until Season 6. Although I've changed my mind about Season 5 basically going all the way to the end of A Dance with Dragons, I still don't think it will go into major Winds of Winter storylines. As I've always said, I think we may get a few displaced nuggets of information from the Winds of Winter, as the show likes to shuffle things out of order and take pieces from different storylines and combine them and to make them new original storylines. But I don't think we'll be hitting any of those major plot point landmarks from the Winds of Winter until Season 6. Many people have suggested the show would surpass the books this year, particularly in terms of Sansa and Bran's storylines, because they are all but reached the end of their book storylines at the end of Season 4. However, we've learned that Bran will not be in Season 5, pretty much for the reason that they don't want him to go too far ahead. And as for Sansa, they're going to create show original material for her, and she'll end up being a surrogate for other characters in the books and will join another storyline that she wasn't a part of in the books, but I'll get more into that later. Also, I did another video about pacing in which I predicted Game of Thrones would have at least 8 seasons, that it wouldn't have only 7. And I was very adamant about this. However, I've since changed my mind about this as well, as it's been revealed that the showrunners, Dan and Dave, would like to end the show in 7 seasons. However, HBO executives would like the show to go for longer, so it's still uncertain how long it will last. My prediction is that there will be a compromise where the show will last 7 seasons, but the 7th season will be a prolonged double season split in half, kind of like Breaking Bad's final season and what The Walking Dead are doing now. I talk a lot more about this with my brother, Atkin Tomko, who has his own YouTube channel. We did a discussion video together where we talked about this. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to hear more about this. As for specific Season 5 predictions, let me start making the rounds going location by location to give my specific final predictions, starting with the ever-important King's Landing. I do think King's Landing will be just as important and central to the show as it's always been. The main focus this year will be on Cersei and her attempts to foil the Tyrells by using the Faith Militant, which will backfire on her and blow up in her face. We've learned that Margaery will be marrying Tommen in the first set of episodes, so we know that will be going forward, and we also know that Tywin's brother Kevin Lannister will be returning to the show this season. So my prediction is that Kevin will return to King's Landing, and unlike the books, he'll stay. Because in the books, Kevin was in King's Landing pretty much the whole time and played an important part in Tyrion's trial, whereas in the show, he was last seen in Harrenhal in Season 2. I think the reason for this is because the show tries to consolidate characters as much as possible, and in King's Landing for Seasons 3 and 4, Kevin's part was easily replaced by Tywin and various other characters, but now that Tywin is dead and many of the other well-known characters have left King's Landing, Kevin will be more important as a surrogate for Tywin. However, even though Kevin hasn't appeared in the show that much, I would say through his brief appearances I can deduce that he is not as forceful of a character as he is in the books, and therefore won't just fuck off to the Riverlands when Cersei acts like a bitch, and in fact will stay on as the Hand of the King. However, I think he'll be more like a voice of reason, trying to keep Cersei in place, but one in which she'll ignore and do whatever she wants anyway, because she won't be as intimidated by him as she was with Tywin. So I don't think we'll get Harris Swift or Aaron Waters or any of those other minor characters from the books who were on the Small Council. So Kevin is going to insist that Cersei uphold the marriage promises that Tywin made to the Tyrells, namely that Margaery marry Tommen and that Cersei marries Loras. The wedding of Tommen to Margaery will come up too soon for her to do anything about, so this will happen. However, she'll come up with a plan to prevent her marriage to Loras, which I'll get more into in a bit. As for Kevin, overall I don't think he'll get that much screen time in the show and will remain a minor character. He may get some screen time, he may get more screen time than he did in previous seasons, but it still won't be that much. Even though I think he'll be Hand of the King, I don't think we'll get that many Small Council scenes this year. Of the scenes with the Hand, I think ultimately Cersei will be the one running things as she was in the books. Kevin will be more of a presence who's forcing these marriages than an actual important player in the events of the story, and thus won't appear that much. We've also learned that Kevin's son Lancel will be returning this year, and his role will be similar as it was in the books, as Lancel will, being a born-again religious freak and working with the Sparrows. However, Lancel will be in King's Landing the whole time rather than the Riverlands, and will be one of the High Sparrow's loyal minions. Again, I don't think he'll be a major character in the story, but more of a background character, but he will begin the season as a Sparrow and remain a member of the Faith Militant throughout. Mace Tyrell will be sent away, much like he was in the books, but to a different destination. I don't think the show will bother at all with the Siege of Storm's End or Dragonstone, and these will simply be overlooked and not mentioned. We know from the leaked photos that Mace Tyrell will be in Braavos meeting with Tycho Nestoris, so I predict that Kevin will try to appease Mace by putting him on the council and giving him powers, and Cersei will just send him away to get rid of him. We also know from the trailers that Lady Olenna will be returning to King's Landing this year. Also great to see. I was uncertain about this since she was not in King's Landing for the majority of A Feast for Crows, and she had already left King's Landing in Season 4. However, it looks like she's coming back. I think it's possible she might even return for Tywin's funeral, if not, maybe Margaery's wedding. Either way, I think she'll be the same sort of powerful presence she's always is. I'm still uncertain on whether or not we'll get Tiana Merryweather in the show, Probably not, since she was such a minor character. However, I really wanted her to be in the show because she was like Cersei's little minion and someone who brought a sense of intrigue to the story, as you constantly were guessing if she was really double-crossing Cersei. But if she was in the show, it would probably be in an extremely minor role, and it would be just as likely that they replace her with a character that already exists, like, you know, Cersei's handmaiden. As for Cersei's plot to get the Tyrells, this will obviously change from the books, as the Kettle Blacks won't be in the show. There is a show original character named Oliver who was a gay prostitute that took over the brothels while Littlefinger was away, so I think he will be the instrument Cersei uses against the Tyrells. We saw a brief clip from the second trailer that appeared that Oliver was testifying at a hearing being held by the High Sparrow where Loras was angrily charging at him. We also heard a scene from filming rumors of Loras being attacked and abducted by Faith Militant. So my prediction is that Cersei's plot to get the Tyrells will involve having Oliver out Loras as being gay, and that this will be what the Faith Militant puts him on trial for. This will serve the double purpose of making it so Cersei doesn't have to marry Loras, as well as weakening Marjorie's position by losing her brother and closest ally. However, it will be Oliver who is tortured by the Faith Militant who gives Cersei away, leading to her capture. However, I'm uncertain on whether or not Cersei will have another plot that specifically targets Marjorie, or if she'll just focus on Loras. Either way, they aren't going to do the storyline with Loras attacking Dragonstone, and since the Ironborn won't be in the show, they aren't doing that whole thing where they attack the Reach. Which is a real pity, because I really liked that scene where Loras begs Cersei to let him attack Dragonstone. I would have loved to see that on screen. As for Marjorie, we definitely will get a battle of wits with her and Cersei over Tommen's affections, and this is something in Season 5 I am most looking forward to, because the dynamics of this will be much different than it was in the books because of how they aged Tommen and Marjorie up. In the books, Tommen was around 8 years old, Marjorie was like a teenager. In the show, Tommen is about 12, and Marjorie is like in her early 20s. And this will significantly change the dynamics of Tommen, as he's old enough to have mature sexual feelings, to which we already saw in Season 4 that Marjorie was trying to take advantage of. I think Tommen will grow close to Loras, as he did in the books, and this will be part of the reason why Cersei has Loras arrested. We also saw a scene of Tommen trying to go to the Sept with an entourage of King's Guards, and he was being blocked by a group of Faith Militant. I believe this will be his attempt to protest the arrest of Loras. Another huge change from the books we heard about is that Littlefinger will be back in King's Landing. At least we know he'll be there in episode 3 or 4. But it's my submission that he will remain in King's Landing for the remainder of Season 5, or at least the majority of it. He may leave towards the end, but I think he'll be in King's Landing for the duration. Therefore, I think he will be involved in Cersei's plot to get revenge on the Tyrells. Perhaps he is the one who enlists the help of Oliver, seeing as, you know, he works for him. And, little to Cersei's knowledge, Littlefinger is already allied with the Tyrells, or at least they plotted together to kill Joffrey. But in Season 4, he referred to them as his new friends. And at that rate, I think Littlefinger will be pretending to help Cersei, but in fact will be working to sabotage her and create more chaos, and will be partly responsible for her downfall. So, I say the small council will consist of Cersei as regent, Kevan Lannister as Hand, Littlefinger as Master of Coin, Grand Maester Pycelle, and Qyburn as Master of Whispers. Maybe Mace will continue his role of Master of Ships, but Cersei's going to send him away as soon as possible, so he really won't be there. And Littlefinger will enable and support Cersei's stupid ideas because he secretly wants her to fail. The High Sparrow will play out very similar as he did in the books, where he will use Cersei to reinstate the Faith Militant and then turn on her and arrest her and force her to do the Walk of Shame. So I think Season 5 King's Landing storyline will end with the Walk of Shame, and Season 6 will deal with Cersei's trial by combat, so that Season 5 will basically go up right to the end of Cersei's A Dance with Dragons storyline. So now I'll move on to the next location, and that is Dorne. So it's already been well confirmed, including many scenes from the trailer, that Jaime and Bronn are going to be in Dorne. This will be so the audience has people in Dorne that they already are familiar with, rather than introducing a whole slew of new characters in a new location with no one familiar to hold on to. I predict that Dorne will first be introduced in episode 2 based off the synopsis. However, it will be introduced through the eyes of Ellaria Sand, who is another character we're kind of familiar with, as she returns to Dorne and demands vengeance for Oberyn's death. It does seem like she's going to be a much bigger character in the show than in the books, and in episode 2 is when Cersei will receive the snake's head in the box that will indicate that Myrcella is in danger. So she will send Jaime to Dorne to bring her back to King's Landing, and Jaime will enlist the help of Bronn. Now the Sand Snakes are going to be actively wanting to kill Myrcella as revenge for Oberyn's death, and Prince Doran will be highly against this, wanting to keep the peace. However, I don't think the Sand Snakes will simply be locked up for the majority of the story's run like they were in the books, and will in fact be at large and a danger that Jaime and Bronn have to contend with. As for Ellaria Sand, there's a possibility she might take on the majority of Arianne's storyline, since she's being cut from the show. Whether or not this means she'll take on the role as Queenmaker in trying to get Myrcella crowned as queen, I'm not sure, but I'm all but certain that Doran's master plan will not be the same as it was in the books, and that it will not involve a marriage to Daenerys. We know that Quentin is being cut from the show. Some have speculated that Trystane will take his place as the one who will be sent to marry Daenerys, but I'm really against this theory for several reasons. First, if Trystane was being sent to Meereen, he would be on his way there and not in Dorne, as we know he will be in Season 5. And for another thing, I think the show is going to focus more on a romance between Trystane and Myrcella. So here's my theory, and I'm not certain about it, but I'm just throwing it out there. What if Trystane takes Arianne's place as the Queenmaker, and he and Myrcella have a romance, and he tries to convince her to be the queen and convinces her to run away with him so they can enact this plot. And Jaime, with the help of Arya Hotah, are sent by Doran to retrieve her. Meanwhile, the Sand Snakes are out there looking to kill her. And once Jaime brings back Myrcella and Arya Hotah brings back the Sand Snakes in his custody, Doran reveals his big master plan to Ellaria Sand and the Sand Snakes. A plan that will get ultimate revenge on the Lannisters, and that plan is... It could involve an alliance with the Targaryens, but it doesn't involve a marriage. I think Season 5 will end with Doran sending Ellaria and the Sand Snakes off to their various missions, or perhaps the same mission, in order to enact his plan. Jaime and Bronn will be returning to King's Landing with Myrcella and Trystane, and one or all the Sand Snakes will be returning with them to enact Doran's master plan, whatever the hell that may be. And Season 5 will end there, and we'll see what will happen when they get to King's Landing in Season 6. So, next I want to talk about Old Town, in so much as I don't think we'll be seeing Old Town in Season 5. We're definitely not going to see material from the Feast for Crows prologue, and I'm still not sure whether or not Samwell will actually be going to Old Town in the show at all. But if he does, it won't happen until Season 6, that much I'm certain of. So, we might possibly see Old Town in Season 6, but not Season 5. It's hard to say because from It seems, the show is trying to keep the characters together in large groups, and they seem to be cutting out storylines from the books where a lot of characters shoot off on their own. And I think this will include Samwell, but maybe I'm wrong, and they'll add a couple more people to the Old Town storyline in Season 6. It's hard to say without knowing, where they're taking Old Town storyline in the books. So next we go up to the Shield Islands in the Reach, another location we saw in the books that will not be in the show, as I already alluded to, which will take us up to the Iron Islands, yet another location we won't see in Season 5. It's already been confirmed that the Iron Islands storyline from A Feast for Crows will not be in Season 5. In my last prediction videos, I predicted that we might see the Iron Islands storyline with the King's Moot and everything like that from Theon's perspective in Season 6. My reasoning is, like Dorne, they wouldn't want to introduce us to a whole new place with a whole new slew of characters without a character the audience already knows, and that they won't want to introduce Dorne and the Iron Islands in the same season, so they'll hold off on the Iron Islands until Season 6. I'm not sure I still believe that. I'm now leaning towards that Euron and Victarion Greyjoy will be cut out of the show entirely. There's already evidence that they are bypassing Victarion in the Daenerys' storyline, as she has already gotten hold of a fleet of ships, one which she didn't have in the books and probably would gain through Victarion, so there's that. So I'm now leaning towards the show will be skipping over the Iron Islands side plot altogether. So next we move over to the Riverlands, which is yet another location where I believe we'll not see in Season 5. We already know they're sending Jaime to Dorne, so he won't be going to the Riverlands, so they're cutting out the whole Siege of Riverrun storyline, which wouldn't have made much sense in the show anyway, because unlike the books, Blackfish isn't there, and it's been implied that Walder Frey already controls Riverrun in the show. In my previous prediction video, I speculated we might see Brienne in the Riverlands, and maybe she'll run into the Brotherhood without banners, but I'm now convinced that that will not be the case, and she will go elsewhere. And also, it doesn't look like we'll see the Brotherhood either, because the actor who played Beric Dondarrion implied that he will not be in Season 5, and has been officially confirmed by the showrunners that Lady Stoneheart will not be in Season 5 either. So I'm calling it now, Season 5 will not have the Riverlands in it. So next we'll move over to the Vale, a region that we will actually see in Season 5, or at least the beginning of Season 5. We've already seen some pictures and footage of Littlefinger and Sansa touring the Vale, including this one with Royce, so I think that's how Sansa and Littlefinger will start out Season 5. Going around the Vale, trying to elicit support. However, I only expect this to last for 1 or 2 episodes because, as I said, Littlefinger will be in King's Landing for episode 3 or 4. So I think this will only last about 2 episodes, and in episode 2, Littlefinger and Sansa will part ways, which I believe is the shot we got in the first trailer where Sansa appears to be crying and Littlefinger is telling her to get revenge. As for Sansa, there is ample evidence to imply that Sansa will be going to Winterfell in Season 5. So a theory that I heard on the net that I really believed and I'm a fan of is that Sansa will be taking Jane Poole's place from the books as fake Arya and marrying Ramsay Bolton. I think Littlefinger will hear of how Arya Stark was spotted at the Bloody Gate and will concoct a plan to take over Winterfell by having Sansa pretend she's Arya and having the Vale inform them that they have Arya and suggest the marriage between her and Ramsay so that Arya can go home and so that the Boltons can legitimize their rule over the North. And the Vale will present this as a peace alliance between them and the Boltons, but in actuality, Littlefinger will be sending Sansa up with a team of Vale soldiers with a plan to undermine the Boltons and reclaim Winterfell for the Starks. Sansa, of course, would have to claim to be Arya because she can't say she's Sansa because Sansa's already married and is wanted for killing Joffrey. She also wouldn't marry him as Elaine Stone because that would defeat the whole purpose of the Boltons acquiring the Stark name. So I think in episode 2, Littlefinger will go down to King's Landing where he has other plans, and Sansa will go up to Winterfell to carry out his plans, which is what Littlefinger means in the trailer when he tells her to get revenge. Get revenge on the Boltons, particularly Roose, who is responsible for killing Robb and involved in the Red Wedding. So, also, starting out in the Vale will be Brienne, who we last saw fighting the Hound. She will start out season 5 running around looking for Arya, and we'll hear word that Arya Stark is meant to marry Ramsay Bolton in Winterfell, so she will then change course and travel up to Winterfell. In the trailer, we saw some clips of Brienne fighting some yet unknown people. I think these people might be like hedge knights, similar to the ones she encountered in Feast for Crows, and might go off on some sort of side plot adventure that distracts her before she goes up to Winterfell. So, moving on along, with the next destination we'll go to is Winterfell, where we'll begin with the Boltons taking over and treating Reek like shit. They will learn of Stannis being at Castle Black and how Stannis is trying to win over the North Lords, and will be thinking of ways to combat that. And then they'll get the invitation for Ramsay to marry Arya, and will be totally on board with this, and it will be the perfect way to fight back against Stannis, as if, you know, they have, they'll legally have the claim of the Starks involved. It really strengthens their claim over the North. However, when Sansa gets there, she'll be working to undermine the Boltons, and as will the Vale company that follows her. Thus, they will take the place of the Manderleys from the book as creating chaos in Winterfell, and will eventually be responsible for the mysterious killing people, so they'll also take over the roles of the Spearwives and, you know, the Ghost of Winterfell. They'll get caught in the storm like they did in the books towards the end of the season, and tensions will be high. I believe Ramsay's girlfriend Miranda won't take too kindly to Sansa, and will constantly be threatening her, and I think eventually Sansa is going to have to kill her in order to save her life, which will create a potentially dangerous situation where Theon, with a little inspiration from a weirwood tree, will run to her assistance and help her escape Winterfell. As for Brienne, she will get caught in her little scuffle in the Vale, and therefore won't arrive there until it's already buried in snow, which will explain, you know, this picture of her covered in snow. And she'll arrive just in time to catch up with Theon and Sansa escaping Winterfell, and will help escort them to Castle Black. So let's go there next. Castle Black, where we'll start out with Stannis and Jon. You know, they're having a go at each other. We'll start the season with the whole competition as who will be the next Lord Commander. Stannis will tempt Jon with an offer of being legitimized and taking over Winterfell in his name. And much like in the books, Samwell will arrange to have Jon become the new Lord Commander against his main competitor, Sir Alliser Thorne, who, due to his injury sustained during the battle at Castle Black, at least temporarily, is taken off ranger duty. Once Jon Snow becomes Lord Commander, he will be forced into beheading Janos Slynt, much as he did in the books, and Alliser Thorne will start to build an opposition against him and his insistence on making allies with the Wildlings. Speaking of the Wildlings, Stannis will have Melisandre burn Mance Rayder alive in the very first episode. That much is pretty much confirmed. What's not known is whether or not this will be a trick, and it won't really be Mance Rayder who's burned, but someone else. I'm still not too sure about this. I'm kind of leaning towards it actually being Mance Rayder who really dies, because I don't think he'll be involved in the Winterfell storyline at all, as he was in the books, because I don't think they'll be doing this little side plot with the Karstark girl marrying the Magnar Thin. That I'm sure will be skipped over entirely, so I say Mance Rayder really will die, and Melisandre will then begin to take a keen interest in Jon Snow as she did in the books. Stannis, I think, will stay at the Wall until mid-season, but eventually go off to Deepwood Moat, much as he did in the books towards the end of the season. There, he and Davos, who will be with Stannis the whole time, not off in White Harbor, which we'll not be seeing at all in the show, they will go off to Deepwood Moat towards the end of the season and will rescue it from the Ironborn and take Yara prisoner. I think Yara, while at Deepwood Moat, will receive word that Balon Greyjoy has died, and Stannis will learn of this after he captures her, so, you know, he'll know that the last of the usurpers he cursed with the leeches have died. Towards the very end of the season, Stannis will march from Deepwood Moat to Winterfell to take on the Boltons, and in the very last episode we'll encounter Sansa, Theon, and Brienne. Brienne is going to be very interested to meet Stannis. She will at first play it cool, however, and slowly begin to plot her revenge, which of course we won't see until season 6. However, before this happens, while at Deepwood Moat, Stannis will learn from the Northmen there the rumors of Rickon being at Skagos, and will send Davos to find him, which will be towards the end of the season, and so we won't see Davos again until season 6. So I'm predicting Rickon and Osha not until season 6. Anyway, back to Castle Black. Jon's going to be building an alliance with the Wildlings and having them help them rebuild the castles to guard against the White Walkers. About mid-season through, Jon will send Sam away with Gilly to Old Town, maybe. And then he will learn that a large group of wildlings have gathered at Hardhome and are being coerced by a Thin named Loboda to stay there where they will surely die. Jon consults with Tormund Giantsbane to plan a rescue mission, rescuing the remaining wildlings by going off on a code venture between the Night's Watch and the wildlings to fight off Loboda and rescue the other wildlings. So, in episode 8, there will be a big battle at Hardhome, which will be a disaster because the White Walkers will show up and start killing everyone. The remaining survivors will flee in the ships, and they will return home beaten and wounded. And in episode 10, Alistair Thorne will be rallying people like Bowen Marsh that Jon Snow has failed because he got everyone killed, and that the alliance with the Wildlings is a huge mistake. So Bowen Marsh will lead the charge of stabbing and trying to kill Jon Snow in order to place Alistair Thorne as Lord Commander. And that's how Jon Snow's Season 5 storyline will end. I'm not sure if the whole Ramsay Bolton letter to Jon will happen before he's knifed. Possibly. I don't know. I'd say so. And I previously predicted Jon Snow's knifing wouldn't take place until Season 6, but I'm now starting to think it will happen in Episode 10 this season, but I'm still not 100%. It's still yet may be postponed until Season 6. So, going north of the Wall, we will not see Bran and his group at all this year, so we'll just have to wait until Season 6 to catch up with them. We will see Hardhome north of the Wall, but I've already talked about that. So, I'll head on over to Essos, our first destination, the free city of Braavos, where we know Arya Stark will be heading this year. So, her storyline will play out similarly as it did in the books, and she'll be training to be a faceless man at the House of Black and White. So, the big question as far as changes from the books goes is, will Jaqen H'ghar be in her storyline, as it's been confirmed that the actor playing him will be in Season 5. The most common assumption is that Jaqen H'ghar will replace the Kindly Man as Arya's mentor and teacher in the House of Black and White. And this makes the most sense to me. I think the show played their relationship a bit differently than the books, as I don't think, he did this in the books, but in the show, Jaqen specifically invited her to Braavos so that he could teach her how to kill those that she wanted to kill, which is kind of different from the books and how she was told to let go of her own personal desires for vengeance. So I think, if I'm correct, and Jaqen takes the place of the kindly man, it might play out a bit differently. And there was a rumor going about that Jaqen will only appear in one scene this season, as he appears in a vision with the kindly man, but I'm hoping that's not the case and that Jaqen is actually taking the place of the kindly man. I think it would certainly go along with the show consolidating characters and not trying to introduce new characters when it's not necessary. At any rate, as I mentioned earlier in this video, it has been leaked that Mace Tyrell will be traveling to Braavos to meet Tycho Nestoris. There have been several theories on why. One of them is that Cersei has learned that that the Iron Bank is funding Stannis and is none too happy about that. While that's certainly a possibility, the theory I'm more fond of is the theory that, like in the book, Cersei will stop paying the Iron Bank, but instead of waiting for representatives to come to them and bitch about it, she'll send one to them, well, partly to get rid of Mace Tyrell. Or perhaps it's a combination of both. Cersei learns that the Iron Bank is funding Stannis, so decides to stop paying them. Either way, Mace will meet up with Tycho Nestoris, and the meeting won't go so well, and will end with the bank being even more pissed off. And who is it that is going to be Mace Tyrell's personal guard? None other than Sir Meryn fucking Trant, the person who presumably killed Arya's first mentor, Syrio Forel. In fact, there has been leaked pictures of that Arya will see Meryn Trant walking the streets of Braavos. So it's not hard to predict that Arya will kill Meryn Trant for revenge. There's been a lot of speculation that this will be a stand-in for the Mercy chapter where Arya killed Rafe the Sweetling, and I say yes and no. I think this will take elements of that and elements of Arya killing Daeron, the Night's Watch singer, and combine them. So to be clear, I don't think either Daeron nor Rafe the Sweetling will be in the show. I think Arya's killing Meryn Trant will serve the same narrative purpose as Arya killing Daeron in the books did, as it will happen around the same time in their storyline when she's still Cat of the Canals, or the show equivalent. And her killing Meryn Trant will cause the kindly man or Jaqen H'ghar or whoever to make her go blind. It will be similar to her killing of Rafe the Sweetling in the books, insofar as Meryn Trant is a royal escort for a visiting dignitary from King's Landing, one who happens to be on Arya's list that she just happens to run into. So I think after she kills Meryn Trant, she'll go blind for an episode or two and then graduate to performing her first kill as a Faceless Man in episode 10, and so her storyline will end right there, the same place it did in A Dance with Dragons. As for Samwell, I'm still kind of split on whether or not he'll go to Braavos. However, I feel if he leaves Castle Black at all, that's where he'll go. And here's my reasoning for why I'm sort of split on this. I see that the show is trying to consolidate characters together and bring together as many characters in one location as possible. So on one hand, it doesn't seem like they'll send Sam and Gilly off on an adventure on their own, and on the other hand, it seems like they're going to have Sam and Arya meet, because the theme this year, as Dan and Dave described, is that worlds are colliding, that a lot of characters who have, who've been in their own separate storylines and who haven't met before are meeting this season. So we know that means like Stannis and his men are meeting, Night's Watchmen at Castle Black. Sansa is going to meet Ramsay and Reek. Tyrion is joining Daenerys' storyline, and so I also think this must also mean that Sam is meeting Arya. But either way, I think they're cutting Daeron out of the show, so I'm not sure what Sam would do in Braavos, but I'm sure they'll find something for him. Maybe he'll, be connected into Arya's storyline in a bigger way rather than just one conversation. But We'll see. As I said, I wouldn't be too surprised if Sand didn't leave Castle Black at all. And the other character who could possibly pop up in Braavos is Gendry, since we're almost due to see him again, and there's been vague, unsubstantiated rumors of Gendry being in Season 5, so that's always a possibility. Or, if the theme is storylines colliding, he could end up popping up in some other random place with characters he's never met before. Maybe he joins the Night's Watch, or the Faith Militant, or maybe he just pops up in Meereen. Who knows? So, next location we'll go to is Pentos, where we'll only be for one episode, the first episode. There we'll get the scene we already seen clips of from the trailer of Varys explaining his plan to Tyrion. So we know that they'll be in Illyrio's house, but we still don't know if we'll actually see Illyrio. I say we have to, but probably just a brief appearance in this one episode. Varys will be Tyrion's main guide that Illyrio was in the books. And Tyrion and Varys will be leaving for Volantis in the very first episode, and we won't see them at all in episode 2, and then they'll, because that will be their travel time, and then in episode 3 we'll see them show up in Volantis. So they're skipping the whole travel down the river storyline that was a big thing in the books, and that means no Griff or young Griff. All those guys are totally being cut from the show. Volantis, which has been confirmed, will be in episode 3. In fact, we got several shots of it in the trailer, such as the cool bridge and overlook of the city, and Varys and Tyrion traveling together there. I watched this one review of the trailer, and they were trying to guess what city it was, and they were thinking it was White Harbor. No. It's not White Harbor. It's Volantis. I'm quite proud of myself for guessing this one right. As, others thought that they wouldn't go to Volantis in the show, but I knew that they would. Or more accurately, I really wanted them to. Personally, I think it would be really cool if they ran into Talisa Stark's mother while they were in Volantis, but somehow I doubt that. Anywho, I think Tyrion will run into Jorah at a brothel in Volantis as he did in the books, and Varys will still be around, and he'll help explain his master plan to Jorah, so that Jorah and Tyrion will travel together as willing partners rather than Tyrion being dragged there as Jorah's prisoner. And needless to say, Penny will not be in the show. However, here's where I think they'll part ways. They'll have a couple of adventures in Volantis together, but after a couple episodes, Tyrion and Jorah will leave for Meereen, and Varys is going to go back to King's Landing, where I believe he will serve the same purpose as he did in the books, as showing up at the last minute to kill Kevan Lannister. Now, some were thinking he wouldn't do this in the show because in the books he did it to create chaos and anticipation for Aegon's conquest of King's Landing, but personally I think they're just going to replace Daenerys for Aegon, as I think they're doing across the board, and that Varys will do this in anticipation of Daenerys' arrival. At any rate, it was such a cool scene from the books when Varys killed Kevan. I'd really love to see it on screen. However, previously I said I didn't think it would happen until Season 6, but now I'm thinking it will happen in Episode 10 of Season 5. In my previous prediction video, I said I felt Jorah and Tyrion, while they're in Volantis, will learn that Volantis is sending a fleet to attack Meereen, and that's why they'll have an urgency to get there first to warn Daenerys. And I still think that's a good possibility, but I'm not 100% on that. So finally, we come to our last destination, Meereen. I think Meereen is going to get a lot more screen time this season and will feature just as prominently as King's Landing. We'll start off with the Sons of Harpy starting to wreak havoc and kill Unsullied in the streets, and Dany is going to have to want to deal with that and will not have the best of luck. Daario will get back from his mission to Yunkai and inform Dany that their peace mission with Hizdahr zo Loraq was successful, and the Wise Masters surrendered and freed their slaves again and said there will be no more trouble from them. However, little do they know that that was just a ruse, and they'll they'll just pretend to surrender until reinforcements arrive from Volantis and New Geese, and then they will join them in laying siege to Meereen. Volantis has already been established as a slaver city in the show, so it stands to reason they'll be quite upset at Dany destroying the slave trade in Slaver's Bay. And plus, I feel Yunkai was much more defeated and seemed overall weaker in the show than it did in the book. So I think Volantis will replace Yunkai as the main outside aggravator. However, Yunkai will join in once reinforcements arrive. However, I don't think this will happen until the very end of the season. I think the majority of the season in Meereen will be all about the rising threat of the Sons of the Harpy, and towards the end of the season, Tyrion will reveal Yunkai's treachery and Volantis' plan to attack, and then the siege will be made in coordination with the Sons of the Harpy, starting a huge attack in Danyzak's pit. So, I got a bit ahead of myself there, backtracking a bit. I believe without Jorah there, Daario is going to convince Daenerys to respond more ruthlessly to the Sons of Harpy attacks, and they'll end up executing random masters for every attack. And this will only escalate things and cause more people to join the Sons of Harpy, because this will lead to full-blown riots in the streets, and the attacks will go so badly and get much worse, and eventually Grey Worm will be ended up being killed in some of these attacks. And then Dany will have to reevaluate once Grey Worm's dead. It's really affect her. And on Barristan Selmy's suggestion, she will marry his Darzo Lorak to legitimize her claim to Meereen and try to calm the fighting. And it will appear to work for a while. And this is where Tyrion and Jorah will come in. Tyrion and Jorah have traveled from Volantis to warn her of the incoming attack. Will be sort of similar to the books. They'll get caught in a storm on the way there and picked up by slavers. And, you know, they've already been rumors of these scenes being filmed. And the actor who played Mr. Echo will play the man who sells Tyrion and Jorah at the auction. They'll be sold to Yizan, and somehow Tyrion will escape or weasel his way out in order to have a meeting with Daenerys, whereas Jorah will be trained as a fighter in preparation for fighting in the fighting pits. Yizan, by the way, I believe will be the Harpy, the person in charge of the Sons of Harpy. He will meet with Daenerys several times in the show, and she won't suspect at all that it's him. Tyrion will learn of this and share that information with Daenerys, which will earn him a place as one of her advisors, although part of the reason she does this is to keep him close because she still doesn't trust him. And Tyrion will kind of fulfill the role of Quentyn by being the visiting dignitary from Westeros that's kind of a distraction for Daenerys. However, he won't take the place of Quentyn insofar as trying to steal dragons. That will be Yizan, but not until season 6. As for the two dragons locked in the catacombs, they will remain locked there until season 6, but we will check in with them from time to time to see how pissed off they are. At any rate, there won't be that deal with the plague from Astapor, nor sellswords companies double-crossing people. All that was going to be cut out. It will be more of a focus on the Sons of Harpy, which will perform a full-scale attack in concert with Volantis and Yunkai's siege of the city at the fighting pits, where Drogon will come by and save the day and start burning the Sons of Harpy people alive, and Dany's going to go for a ride on him, and they'll fly off together, and that will be the very final scene of Season 5. So that's it for my predictions on Season 5. We only have 1 week before Season 5 starts, so it won't be that long until we see how wrong I really am. During Season 5, my episode reviews won't be dealing with my predictions or book material, as they will be spoiler-free videos open for all. My brother over at Kentamco and I may do some more discussion videos during the course of Season 5 where we talk about our predictions and book-heavy spoilers and stuff like that. But my own episode reviews will be spoiler-free. After season 5 has ended, I will then do a video telling how horribly wrong all my predictions were. So make sure you subscribe to keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.